Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will hold another meeting today. At the previous meeting, the main focus was on the tasks in the zone of responsibility of the Western and Southern groups. As for the Western groups, they spoke about the overall situation in the zone of responsibility and about the situation in the area of Kupiansk. As for the Southern groups, the commander reported on the situation in the zone of his responsibility and reported on the combat operations in the city and around the city of Seversk. As for the Central and Eastern groups, the initiative is fully in the hands of our armed forces. Today, we will continue our work and will discuss in more detail the situation in the zone of responsibility of your groups. First of all, I would like to get information about the situation in the city of Krasnoarmeysk and how you see the further development of the situation in this area. As for the Eastern groups, I know the pace at which your troops are moving in this direction. They have approached the city of Huliaipole. Of course, I would like to get information about the situation in the area of Huliaipole, and most importantly, what do you think you are proposing to do in the zone of your responsibility in order to solve the tasks presented to your groups in the most effective way? The Chief of the General Staff at the previous meeting reported on the results of the tasks in all directions, including in this direction. The commanders of the troops groups will discuss in more detail the situation in the zone of your responsibility. In addition, as part of today's event, we will consider the tasks posed to the troops of the United Group and will discuss the most relevant issues of the troops' security. Let us not forget that the winter period is approaching, and we should bear this in mind. The guys should be provided with everything they need. Valery Vasilievich, I would like to ask you to report on the situation in the zone of the Northern Group's responsibility, considering that the tasks posed to it are to create a security zone along the state border. In this regard, I would like to hear about the situation in the area of Volchansk and in Volchansk itself. Let us move on to the work. I ask the Chief of the General Staff to report on the situation in the zone of the special military operation.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, in accordance with the plan of the special military operation, the troops of the United Group are advancing on the wide front. The command of the armed forces of Ukraine continues its unsuccessful attempts to unblock its encircled troops in the Kupiansk and Krasnoyarsk directions, and attempts to stop our advance in the Krasnoarmeysk, Severodonetsk, Dnipropetrovsk, and Zaporizhzhia direction. The Northern Group has completed the liberation of Volchansk today. In addition, in order to create a security zone along the border areas of the Sumy and Kharkiv regions of Ukraine, in November, 3 more settlements, Sinelnikovo, Tsigelnoye, and Dvoryachanskoye, were taken under our control. The troops of the Western Group have concentrated their main efforts in the Krasnoarmeysk direction and on the left bank of the Stary Oskol River to destroy the encircled group after the capture of Kupiansk. They continue to squeeze the ring to liquidate the encircled group. Its number is about 15 battalions.
Last time you said, and I asked the question then, that the enemy cannot go to the south along the left bank of the Stary Oskol River. Can the enemy go to the south along the bank of the Stary Oskol River?
No, it cannot. Because there is a dense defense of the 1st Tank Army along the left bank of the Stary Oskol River to the south of the encircled group. It is about 17 kilometers to the south. The offensive on the Rubtsov and Krasnoarmeysk directions of the Western Group is developing. The assault units of the Western Group have entered the Krasnoarmeysk direction and are now fighting in the southeast and east parts of the city. The street battles in Drobyshevo and Yarovoye continue. This is in the Krasnoarmeysk direction. The southern group is developing the offensive in the northern part of the Donetsk People's Republic. In the northern direction, as a result of the active fighting, the settlements of Zvanovka, Vasyukovka, and Petrovskaya have been liberated. In the northern part, the assault units of the Third Army are conducting street battles and are expanding the control zone in the northeast and south areas of the city. They are liberating more than 100 buildings in the north every day. In the Kramatorsk-Drushkovsk direction, as well as in the southern group, the settlements of Ivano-Polya have been liberated, and the street battles in Konstantinovka continue. The southeast and east parts of the city of Konstantinovka are under our control. This is more than 30% of the total number of buildings in Konstantinovka. The troops of the central group have liberated the city of Krasnoarmeysk and continue to destroy the enemy units in Dimitrovka. In addition, part of the forces of the group are successfully developing the offensive in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The eastern group continues to advance in the western direction at high pace, expanding the control zone in the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhzhia regions. The troops of the Dnieper group are advancing in the Zaporizhzhia direction. Combat actions are being conducted in Primorsk, surrounded by the settlement Stepnogorsk. In addition, according to the General Staff's plan, retaliatory massive strikes on the objects of the Ukrainian military-industrial complex and the energy infrastructure providing for their functioning will be carried out. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, the troops of the Joint Group will continue to conduct active offensive in order to completely liberate Donbass. This is the end of my report. Thank you.
In general, we observe that the troops of the Joint Group are increasing the pressure along the entire front line. In recent days, control over several large settlements has been established, which are important for further actions to liberate the entire territory, including the one that is still under enemy control. Commander-in-Chief of the Joint Group, Valery Nikolaevich, during our meeting on October 25th, reported on the encirclement of the Joint Group in the area of the Dnipropetrovsk-Krasnoarmeysk agglomeration. Valery Nikolaevich, did I understand correctly that the city of Krasnoarmeysk is in our hands?
Yes. Please report in detail. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, the troops of the Joint Group continue to carry out the task of destroying the enemy in the Dnipropetrovsk direction, according to the plans approved by the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces. In the Krasnoarmeysk direction, the Second Army, together with the forces of the 30th Separate Motorized Regiment, 506th, 439th, 1435th Motorized Regiments of the 27th Guards Motorized Division, completed the liberation of the city of Krasnoarmeysk. At present, a search and destruction of the remains of small groups of the enemy is underway, trying to hide in the city limits. The destruction of the enemy formations in the Dnipropetrovsk direction continues. The southern part of the city is completely liberated. It is being cleared. The enemy group in the northern part is securely blocked. Attempts to leave or unblock this group were unsuccessful. Approximately 1,500 to 2,000 people are blocked in the northern part of the city. The enemy makes repeated attempts to unblock, as well as tries to break out of the city. But, as I have already reported, there was no success. All attacks are repelled. Breakthrough is not allowed. The troops, In accordance with your instructions, carry out measures to create conditions for ceasing resistance and surrender of prisoners serving in the armed forces of Ukraine. At the
27-й гвардейской мотострелковой дивизии завершили освобождение города Красноармейск. В настоящее время идет поиск и уничтожение остатков мелких групп противника, пытающихся укрыться в городской черте. Продолжается уничтожение формирований противника в Димитрове. Южная часть города полностью освобождена. Идет зачистка. Группировка противника в северной части.
same time, the command of the enemy prevents this in every possible way. According to the words of the Ukrainian soldiers, they are threatened with execution, executions of relatives and loved ones. It is forbidden to surrender. We have also repeatedly recorded the facts of the destruction of the Ukrainian FPV drones, of the soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine, who came to our positions with their arms raised. In addition, we continue to develop the offensive on the left flank, in the direction of Novopavlovka, which is the main defense unit of the enemy in this direction. We encircle the enemy from the southwest, west, northwest, and the eastern part of the settlement in order to encircle it. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, the military center continues to carry out offensive actions in all directions. All tasks before the units and military units will be carried out. The report is over.
I will say more about this, but right now I want to thank you for the results of the work on the Red Army. You, the whole team, me personally in the subgroup, and of course the soldiers of our guys who carry out these combat tasks. This is an important direction. We all understand how important it is, and it will ensure us to carry out the decisions of all the main tasks that are in front of us and were set up initially at the beginning of the special military operation. Thank you. Andrei Sergeyevich, please. The situation in the zone of responsibility of the Vostok Group.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, the Vostok Group, in accordance with the plan of the special military operation, carries out the tasks in the Zaporizhzhia direction. The military units are actively moving to the south of the Dnipropetrovsk region and to the eastern part of the Zaporizhzhia region. The offensive of the 5th, 29th, and 36th Armies is carried out on the wide front. Today, the 37th Separate Reconnaissance Brigade of the 36th Army has completely completed the liberation of the settlement of Dobrapol. In the last week, the new Zaporizhzhia and the quiet Zaporizhzhia region, and the quiet and remote Dnipropetrovsk region have also been liberated.
Выполняет задачи на запорожском направлении. Соединения воинские части активно продвигаются на юге Днепропетровской и восточной части Запорожской областей. Наступление 5-й, 29-й и 36-й армий ведется на широком фронте. Сегодня 37-я отдельная мотострелковая...
Since November 1st, more than 360 square kilometers of the territory of these regions, 7 settlements, and 12 in the Dnipropetrovsk region, have been liberated. At present, the units of the 29th and 36th Armies are expanding the control zone on the eastern bank of the Gaichu River. In addition, the units of the 5th Army entered the settlement of Huliaipole yesterday, fortified on its outskirts, and are conducting street fighting to destroy the formations of the Ukrainian armed forces in the settlement. The offensive in this direction continues. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, the destruction of the enemy formations in the Zaporizhzhia direction is carried out in accordance with the plan approved by the General Headquarters of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation. All the tasks before the troops of the Vostok Group will be carried out. How do you see the further development of the situation? Further, Comrade Commander-in-Chief, the key will be the destruction of the enemy on the left bank of the Gaichur River. to continue the offensive further in the western direction on the borders of the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhzhia regions, as well as the occupation of the Huliaipole Defense District, the center in the city of Huliaipole.
Andrei Sergeyevich, your troops are moving at a pace that guarantees the execution of all the tasks ahead of us.
Ваши войска двигаются темпом, который гарантирует нам выполнение всех стоящих перед нами задач. Имею в виду, что при таком темпе нашего наступления противник, разумеется, не в состоянии...
I mean that at this pace of our offensive, the enemy, of course, is not able to react properly. Now the center is in the zone of responsibility. We closely followed what was happening around the city of Krasnoarmeysk. I understood correctly that the enemy was trying to block Krasnoarmeysk at any cost. Yes, absolutely. Not taking into account the losses, and in my opinion realizing that this is no longer possible, it still threw new units, but practically on the kill, without any exaggeration. If we mean that, except for the nationalist battalions, neo-Nazi battalions, which are mainly the army of the USSR, then they do not feel sorry for a simple soldier. Does what I just said correspond to reality?
It corresponds to reality, yes. The nationalist battalions do not participate. They refuse this task. Here, again, the mobilized ones are carrying out the task. It can be seen that people have recently been called upon, people who have not been trained. They are going on a kill. In the direction of Krasnoarmeysk, dozens and hundreds will die there. Such an attitude, of course, I think, it can be seen it will continue for now. But this is just the extermination of their people.
Our officers are watching this on the battlefield, right?
Просто истребление своего народа идет.
Прямо это наши офицеры наблюдают на поле боя, да?
Это наблюдают наши офицеры, наши солдаты и расчеты и постов-воздушной разведки, FPV.
This is observed by our officers, our soldiers, and the calculations, and the air reconnaissance. And the air reconnaissance, there are Ukrainian soldiers buried in the woods.
I see. This is a tragedy of the Ukrainian people, which is connected with criminal policy. This is the thieving junta, which has seized power in Kyiv. Dear comrades, the Russian armed forces firmly maintain the initiative and continue to carry out special military operations. The offensive of the Russian troops is taking place in almost all directions. It can also be noted that the destruction and formation of the enemy, as well as the destruction of the encircled on the left bank of the Oskol River, is taking place in a planned manner. I also note the effective actions of the Union and military units of the groups of the center for the liberation of the city of Krasnoarmeysk. Undoubtedly, it should not be taken as an example of the success of the assault units of the Vostok Group, which operate in the Zaporizhzhia direction. The pace of the offensive of the Union and military units in this direction, as I said, is impressive. I would like to express my gratitude to the entire personnel of the groups, to the command staff for this hard but very important work for our country. Thank you. The commanding troops must continue to carry out the tasks in strict accordance with the principles of the special military operation. I have already mentioned this. This is, of course, the Ministry of Defense, and the General Staff must think about supplying the troops in the coming winter period.
Генштабу нужно подумать о снабжении войск в наступающий зимний период.